And now a few lines from verses 16 and 17. So I have struck you down from the mountain of God. I have destroyed you, O shielding cherub, from among the stones of fire. You grew haughty because of your beauty. You debased your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I have cast you to the ground. Now there are a few things to notice here in this passage. First, there is certainly a reference to a supernatural being, an anointed shining cherub, who is cast down. Second, he's cast down to the earth, and the term in Hebrew can mean underworld realm of the dead as well as the land, or the earth as we know it. And third, there is a specific reference to Eden. Eden is called the mountain of God and the garden of God, and these are terms that would be used of the divine abode in the ancient Near East. Now, this being had been among the, quote, stones of fire. This is biblical language for stars or meteors, celestial objects, which were thought to be living beings, and so this language gets used of supernatural beings. So this cherub was one of these beings and gets cast down to earth or the underworld. And what do we have? We have a reasonable description here of a supernatural rebellion that will later become known as the rebellion of Satan, the adversary. But did you notice there's no reference in this passage at all to a third of the angels? Now the same issue is true of the second passage that's used to defend this idea, and that's 2 Peter 2:4, which reads, "For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but held them captive in Tartarus in chains of darkness and handed them over to be kept for judgment," then so on and so forth. This is the way God would treat false teachers. Now this passage also has no reference to a third of the angels, none at all. But it does describe angels, plural, that sinned. It's a little misleading, though, to use this passage as proof of a rebellion before Adam and Eve of a third of the angels. Verse 5 connects this sin of the angels with the flood and Noah. The passage actually refers to Genesis 6:1 through 4, event with the sons of God and the daughters of men that happened right before the flood or shortly before the flood. It does not refer to a rebellion before the fall of Genesis 3, and it also doesn't mention Satan. So we have some significant disconnections between Ezekiel 28 and 2 Peter 2 to defend this idea that a third of the angels rebelled with Satan. Now the two passages we've talked about to this point provide no evidence that Satan rebelled with a third of the angels. Neither passage mentions a third of the angels, and in fact the second passage doesn't even reference the Garden of Eden. Now there's one last passage offered as evidence for this idea, and that is Revelation 12, where the archangel Michael shows up. I read, "A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains in the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne, and the woman fled into the wilderness. Now war arose in the heavens, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven." Now this passage, Revelation 12, is the only passage in the Bible that uses the word third along with angels.